Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome to our presentation on the order form solution in SharePoint. We're going to go ahead and begin, and we're going to start with some general ground rules, then we'll get into the main presentation. I'm Will Cooper. I am a SharePoint solutions developer, and I do any and all things related to SharePoint and Microsoft 365. I have my own YouTube channel. It's called SharePoint Smart. Hope you'll check that out. There's more than 300 videos on there, all kinds of interesting SharePoint training topics. I hope you'll check it out. Additional to that, I have my own SharePoint software, which is on a website called SharePoint Dashboards. I'll talk to you a little bit about that after our main presentation. About Infowise, we employ a philosophy where we like to keep things simple and easy, and we're always improving our tools. So we want to provide a solution where our customers can use these tools in SharePoint in order to build all kinds of different solutions and be able to do that with no code. Our toolkit is available both for SharePoint Online and also for on-premise SharePoint. So regardless of which version of SharePoint you use, you can take advantage of what I'm going to show in this presentation. During the presentation, if you have any questions or comments, we definitely want to hear those. The way that you can give those to us is to use the Q&A tool in the webinar. You can post your messages there. If you don't get an immediate response, don't worry. We're going to get to you later on in the presentation. I'll try to do my best to answer any questions that you have. We are recording the session. This will be posted on YouTube later today. So don't feel like you need to scramble to take notes. You can share this with other users or replay what I'm showing. Another thing I'll mention, the template I'm going to show in the presentation is available for you to check out and try for yourself for free. And you can get access to that by signing up for our trial software. As I mentioned, these tools are available both for Microsoft 365 and also for on-premise SharePoint. So regardless of what kind of SharePoint environment you're working in, you can take advantage of these tools. All right, so let's jump into our main presentation and let's begin by defining our goal. I always want to do that at the beginning of a meeting. That way we know whether we were successful by the end. These are 8 features that you would naturally want to include as part of an order form system. So let's go ahead and define those, and then we'll take a look at the solution to ensure that it does incorporate that. Normally, when it comes to web order forms, we tend to get into the realm of programming and developers. And a really great aspect of this solution is that you do not need to be a programmer. There's no coding involved in any part of what I'm going to show in my presentation. You can define from scratch your own order form. You can manage it and do all this without having to do any coding at all. So if you're not a SharePoint developer or a SharePoint administrator, don't worry. You can use this solution that I'm showing. We certainly want to have email notifications as a part of our system. So when somebody submits an order, we need to have an email automatically going out to notify and confirm to the person who made the order, and then also to the team that's responsible for getting those orders sent out. We need to have an inventory management system as a part of this. So we need a way to be able to add inventory. In our case, it's a products list, and that should include detailed description and other information like the cost and an image of the product. We also need to be able to order those, manage those orders easily. So we need to see when they come in. We need to see that status, and we need to do things like track the shipping information and things of that nature. So we need a centralized order management system. This needs to be able to be embedded into a public site. This is a very interesting part of the solution. Naturally, in SharePoint, this is a software where you have to log into, and it's for users within your organization. Our toolkit allows for the functionality of a public-facing form. This means you can create a custom form in SharePoint, and by toggling on a couple of settings, it will allow you to embed that form out to a public website, and that will allow you to collect orders from your organization's public website, and those will show up as SharePoint records inside of SharePoint. We need to be able to integrate images related to our products. In any kind of web order system, naturally, you're going to be able to see a picture of what you're ordering. So that's an essential part of the solution. And then the order form itself needs lots of customization. As I mentioned earlier, there's no programming involved with our toolkit. It's a drag and drop interface where you can add fields and define the look and feel just by using simple configuration options. So being able to custom configure your order form is going to be essential. And then another aspect of this is the ability to collect payments. And our tools allow for the ability to do online payments. As of this recording, we support Stripe, PayPal, and Authorize.net. So you can collect payments from your users with any of those three methods. All right, let's jump into SharePoint. And I'm going to start from a user perspective. I'm going to review at a high level our solution, and then we're going to do a demonstration of how this works. I'm going to actually put in an order. This solution is comprised of three main SharePoint lists. We're going to begin with the products. And as I mentioned, we need to have an ability to define our products, add or remove items from the list, and have that automatically update our order system. This part of the solution is very easy to use. This would be something that's only manageable by your admin users. They can come in here and they just simply define the picture and then a description of the product. So that includes the product title and a more detailed description. And then we've got some information in regard to a category, count, and cost. A very simple form. I can naturally add or remove from those at any time. In my site, I've got filtered views to jump to different types of things in there. For example, if I just want to look at my chairs, I can click on that tile and I can go to this gallery view to view my products. So the management of the inventory is easy. And if these are active on the list, then I'm going to be able to see that in the order part of it. There's two other lists that are part of our main solution, and that is orders and order lines. Naturally, when you're entering an order, you may want to order multiple items. And in this case, we want to have a repeating table. You're going to see exactly how that works. So this is how users can enter orders in from our public website. I'm going to go ahead and do that in just a moment. And then within that, we also have order lines. Those are the line items on the order. So there are three main forms, three main lists in our system. Let's go ahead and jump to that. Now, as you would expect in SharePoint, I can click Add New Item and add an order. What we're wanting to demonstrate is we have a solution where this same order form is accessible not only inside SharePoint, but out on a public website. As a demonstration, I put this on my own public website, just SharePointDashboards.com. This is that same order form. It is the SharePoint form that I've created, update, maintained inside of SharePoint, and with a couple of settings switches, I was able to turn on this public-facing form functionality, and I can do an order right from the public website. My customers would never even know this has anything at all to do with SharePoint. All right, so let me put in an order real quick. Okay, and now we'll come to the line items for the order form. So if you'll notice on here, I can select Add Item to Order, and then I can browse from the list of available products. Just have to wait for a moment for that to come up, and then I can pick from the drop-down. All right, so notice they're sorted by different categories. I've got chairs, office supplies, printers. These are all just dummy products that I've loaded in the system. Naturally, you'll be loading in whatever kinds of products you want. It can support as many categories or total project products that you need. Notice we've got the preview image. That's a very important part of the system. In any kind of order system, we want to be able to show what it is exactly they're ordering. That's critical. So when I change that drop down, you'll notice that the preview changes. Then I've got the cost down here, and I can indicate the total items. So we'll do 2 chairs. I click update order, and that will update on this list right here. And I can add as many items as I want to for my order. So I'll go ahead and add another part of my order just to demonstrate. Let's order some storage boxes. There's a picture of what they look like. I'll order 5 of those. Click update order. And you can see I've got the line item details, and then I've got my totals for the list. If my customer wants to add any notes, they can. And I just click on order. This stage, I get a confirmation. I'm also going to receive an email, which will give me the details of my order. Part of that is I'm going to be able to do a PDF print template with the summary. So I'll get something that looks like that by way of email. But that is all that I have to do from the perspective of the person placing the order. So let's go back in SharePoint and see what that looks like. There it appears. This is the order that was placed in the public site. And now I can do order management. I can see it was created 25 seconds ago. By default, it's with the status of requested. I can click on order line details to see the line items from the order. And I can do all my order management from this screen. Notice when I come in SharePoint that it looks different. There's a new section in the form that wasn't visible for my customer when they placed the order. That's by design. This is how I can do my order management. And one part of our form system is that you can set rules which control which parts of the form are visible, either based on the user role or status, or what stage I am in a process. So let's go ahead and work this through the process. So now that I've received the order, I've checked, and I'm going to see when I'll have things ready, and I'm going to give my customer an estimated delivery date. Notice we have history tracking. That'll give me a history of all the updates in the order. That way, if there's any questions or get a support ticket, I can go and get the detailed information on where it is in the process. Also, my order team can make notes if there's any issues they need to record. Notice that it updated the history log, status updated automatically. Now I have an ordered status. And then likewise, I may have additional statuses. In my case, we just kept it simple. I'm going to do one more for the delivery date. I'm going to just say that that's the 26th. And I can do set delivered. That would be the final stage of my process. It's delivered. And I can fill it and sort it on this main dashboard just to see exactly what my status is throughout the process. So there's lots of possibilities there. Okay, let me pause for a second and see if anyone has any questions for me. Just use the Q&A option in the webinar, and I'll try to answer questions. I don't see any questions at the moment, so I will keep going and continue to give you some information about how this system is put together. This functionality is enabled by adding our software. As I mentioned, you'll be able to download our free trial, which is our entire software, including this template, after our presentation, so you can actually get into this exact form that I'm going to show. Our first most important tool is our form designer tool. That's where my custom form was built and set up, and I'm going to show you a little bit about how that works. Uses a container system, and it's very easy for me to control the colors, the border, the look and feel of my form. I can make it look however I want, and I do that just by picking a color swatch and adjusting settings and drop downs and things like that. So whenever I do a setting, you'll see the update immediately. It's very obvious what I'm building. You also see this is a multi-column form, so I can spread things around and make them look nice instead of the boring out-of-the-box single-column SharePoint form. In the middle, we've got the repeating table, In our product, this is referred to as associated items, and that's where we add the repeating items that go on our order. And then the bottom, you can see our order updates section. And then this includes something I love about our product, which is the ability to put custom buttons into the form. And I have many options in terms of what those buttons can do. In my case, I have that defined on the side. I said I want to set the status to ordered. And then I have some information I'm putting into a history log. Then there's another hidden field I use to determine that's ordered. So I can set up custom functionality. As I mentioned, I don't want that showing on the new form. I'll show you how I was able to make that happen. It was very easy. I simply added this role and I simply said, make this section writable in the edit and display forms. And in this way, it only appears at the second step and further on the process. So it's very easy to use rules to make the forms dynamic as you wish. I also did a customization. I don't want to show a save button. I wanted to say order to my customer because that's more what they might be used to. I can just change the label on my button. And then also I like it to be a green button. So I just set the background color to green. So it's very easy to work with the form designer tool. Another key part of this are the email notifications, and that's automated through the business logic under alerts. I'll walk through one example of that for you real quick. This is just a wizard where you can work your way through the tabs, define your recipients, and then the conditions when to send the email. In this case, I just need to send the email when a new item is added, and then I can define the content of the email. This just uses a rich text editor. I can enter field content such as the order details in here, and then this email will automatically go out whenever an item is added. This is much easier than what I would get out of the box. If I were working out of the box, I would have to do this as part of a Power Automate workflow, which typically is code oriented. It's a developer platform, not the easiest way to set up email notification rules. Here's the second rule I have set up. It's similar to the first. In this case, I want to send it out when items are modified, and I'm looking for a field to change. Whenever the status field gets changed, I want to go ahead and send out an update on that order. Pretty easy to work with. Another part about this is we have a print template. I want it to actually create a PDF for me whenever that order is confirmed for delivery. And so I just go through here and define those conditions, and then I can set a print action at a couple fields I got rid of. Let me update that. And similar situation, I can go to actions, and we have a print items action that will actually produce a PDF. I can save that locally to a document library, or I can actually have it email out to the user. I can custom configure the subject line and the content, and I have that ability as well. One thing that's not part of our pre-built template, which you can add in a straightforward manner, is the payments option. I'll include a link to our payment information below the video when I load it later today. On our website, we have an article about that, integrate payments in SharePoint Forms, and it talks a little bit about the setup and steps to do that. Generally, as long as you have your account established with those third-party providers, you can then embed that payment option directly into your form and integrate it as part of your solution. So lots of good options there. Our software is available for you to try for free. You can do that by going to the Infowise website, and you can click on the Try Now for Free button. This will allow you to download our software and set it up for trial on your SharePoint. One thing I really love about that is there's no limit at all. It is the same as if you already have purchased our software, in the fact that all of the functionality is there, including the solution. So it's a really great way to try things out, and that's definitely going to be your first step. We have all kinds of different solutions you can build with our software. If you're curious about other things that are available, you can see a whole list of that in our webinars page. there are hundreds of options in terms of solutions. If I go back to the interface, I'll show you exactly how you can access this solution. To do that, you go to our main settings page, click on Solution Catalog, then click on Webinars. Currently, you can see the one from my presentation in a previous month. You can see Email Alert Solution, Applicant Tracking System. After the presentation today, you're going to see this tile up here, and it's very easy to install the template. You just create an empty SharePoint site, click Install, and everything that I'm showing in the solution will be downloaded, and you can play around with it for yourself. Next, I want to tell you about how this works in public sites. It's very easy to do, and I really love this part of our tool. All that you have to do to make your SharePoint form publicly accessible and able to put on your public site is to use our external form option. There's a toggle. Naturally have that on. It says allow access for anonymous external users. Once I've done that, it provides me a URL and some code. You can see in my case, I've added it to my SharePoint dashboard site, and all that I have to do is create a page with an empty body and paste in this little code snippet. It's a very simple code snippet. It will cause the form to load in a frame in the middle of that page. You just paste this in and it's all set. Another thing I really like about that is that once that page is set up, you will never have to ask your web person to do any updates on the page. In other words, if I want to change my form, if I want to add fields or change the way it looks, I can do that entirely within SharePoint, and those changes will be reflected on that public web page. So this is the page I've embedded on just as a demonstration. So there are lots of things you can do. Just as an example, I do have other public pages on my public site. I'll show you a couple of those real quick. My contact form is through that site, and notice how I have it set up to change the interface depending on what you pick. I have lots of custom functionality. Depending on what you're contacting me about, I have different information that I display. So these are examples of the dynamic forms. You can make forms branch and show different information based on what you do. I have another form for purchases on my public website. This is also a SharePoint form. Notice that it can do things like auto calculations to change the totals. It's changing to show real-time field validation to help my user know what they're putting in. And then I can incrementally show form sections so that I do it in a step-by-step process so as to not overwhelm the user. So there are many possibilities in terms of what you might do with public forms. Some of my other customers do forms such as contact forms, support forms, or applicant tracking systems where they would have job application forms on their public site. These are all possibilities. We have examples of these in our other presentations. Let me pause again and remind you guys, if you have any questions at all about this system, I'm ready to answer that. All that you have to do is just type your question into the Q&A section in the webinar interface, and I'll do my best to answer the question. Some of the formatting that you see in the dashboards come from templates in my SharePoint Dashboards tool. This is an additional tool which you can also try out for free. As an example, these gallery views that I have set up were set up using a SharePoint Dashboards template. These gallery cards like this. And then some of the summaries that you see use those templates as well. So if I go, for example, to orders, the highlighting and time frame for the created, that's using SharePoint Dashboards, just as an example. The edit button comes from that site as well. Signing up for a trial on that is free. You can just go to Get Started, click on Free. All you have to do is provide your name and email. You get a free login, and you can use 21 templates from that site for free. So if this is something that interests you, please go check that out. All right, I don't see any questions in the chat at the moment, but I'm going to go ahead and keep the presentation rolling in case you guys have any questions. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording, but I will stay on to answer any additional questions you have about doing an order form for your organization.